Hi, you're watching India Post Live, and I'm Shivraj, and the conversation today is about the third gender, the Supreme Court allowing transgender people a third gender identity. You can join in on the conversation by logging on to our website, indiapostlive.com. You can also tweet with us. Use the hashtag IndiaPostLive. Right on Tuesday, the Supreme Court allowed transgendered people a third gender identity, which means that they can now officially identify themselves in documents and give themselves formal recognition in addition to other privileges like being part of a separate category as well. So what does this formal recognition of a neutral third gender mean for them? A quick look.
It's finally here, a landmark judgment by India's Supreme Court for LGBT activists and communities. The court noted that it was the right of every human being to choose their gender and identify themselves as neither male nor female. It also added that transgendered people would be included in all welfare programs for the poor, including education, healthcare, and jobs to help them overcome social and economic challenges. There are an estimated 3 million transgender people in India. Even though the court's decision does not apply to gays, lesbians, or bisexuals, activists hope this will give relief to them. But is it enough, or way too little, especially for those who still face discrimination in a society that still remains deeply conservative?
So on a technical note, what it means is at third gender category for transgenders, recognizing them as socially and economically backward class. Also, the court has directed the government to ensure they get job quotas, admission in educational institutions, health benefits, separate public toilets, and a host of other safeguards against discrimination. While joining us in studio for a perspective on that conversation are Gaurav Ghosh, who's a gay rights activist and part of the students' movement, and Ashwin, a linguist. Now, Ashwin, your particular situation, given the Supreme Court judgment on Tuesday, what are your initial reactions?
Well, first of all, I am so happy that this has happened. I feel so much, I feel really happy for the transgender community of our country, and I think it has brought our country one step closer to real progress. Because, like I say, you cannot have a first world country without transgender rights, without LGBT rights. If you want to be a first world country, a developed, advanced country, you gotta have LGBT rights.
And interestingly, the court has directed the government to determine transgender identities not through physical but psychological examination or testing. Now that is a big progress, isn't it?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact, because it is like, a confirmatory analysis. It confirms that, yes, a given person, who claims to be transgender, is indeed transgender. So it makes it official.
Okay, so let's get reactions in from Simran Sheikh, who joins us via Skype. Simran, you represent the India HIV Alliance, and for you, the Supreme Court judgment clearly has much wider ramifications, both socially, culturally, and also from a health perspective as well, doesn't it?
Of course, yes. I think it has led the marvelous stone, the foundation stone for our community. And as a Hijra activist, I think this could be the day. We celebrate our independence. I think we have crossed that. But one thing has assured us that the struggle is not over. We have got a support of law, and now the real battle begins from today.
The perception, right, Simran, because your own personal story was a very tough one. But significantly, the Supreme Court has laid down specifics, right? Separate public toilets, a certain kind of separate identity with safeguards as well. And like you're saying, it's not enough to just have it in law. What will it take for public perception and on-ground perceptions to change?
It is going to take a lot of time, to change a mindset of a person would definitely take lots and lots of time. It is not going to be a days consultation or days effect where I can change the entire country's mindset against transgenders. No, I think lots of advocacy is going to go in it. Lots of pressure has to be built in it, and I think slow and steady we are going to achieve. Up till date, we never had any support as in such. We used to always rely on our epics, and we used to always rely on we are really, I've been begging in front of you to please give us the recognition, please do this and please do that. Today, from yesterday onwards, I think we can now firmly with dignity say that, sir, you need to do this. Sir, I belong to third gender and you need to add me in your binary as a third gender. This is what I mean. I think we have got a support, and this does play a major role according to me.
Thank you, Simran. We will continue coming back to you, but I think it's interesting, Gaurav, because while there was no mention of Section 377, the fact is that it's paradoxical. It's at variance with just 4 months ago where the same court had a different view. So in the judgment here, and I'm just going to read out, it mentions, and very, very categorically, each person's self-defined sexual orientation and gender identity is integral to their personality, is one of the most basic aspects of self-determination, dignity and freedom. That's the basis of the fight as well for the LGBT community, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true, but then I think Supreme Court with this judgment cannot overtly make a comment on Section 377 because there is already a the curative petition is there. But I think that in this judgment they have also criticized Section 377, and they actually talked about Article 14, and which actually safeguards for personal choice and freedom and your sexual orientation.
I hope because the fight has been won. But this is very significant. It is somewhat of a precedent. Are you hopeful that you will have made a step towards convincing the public as
yeah,
well?
of course. Like it's one. I'm quite hopeful about it because if Supreme Court before the curative petition on 377, if Supreme Court is saying that transgender community should be recognized as a third gender category, so I think then there is enough hope for us to also when the curative petition opens and the hearing is open, and then we can actually see that how Supreme Court talks about it.
Interesting, Simran. The fact is that in this instance, it sort of gives you sexual rights as well. But there's a whole issue of MSM, right? I mean, from a health perspective, do you think that this will help at least bring those concerns on board so there is an accurate recording and some sort of safeguard against the kind of disease that is prevalent?
Of course, why not? It is going to have a major impact. And I completely agree with my speaker who just spoke. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but
Gaurav.
I completely agree with, sorry?
Gaurav Ghosh.
Gaurav. Okay, Gaurav. I completely agree with Gaurav. Yes, of course, in the yesterday's judgment, because I have read the entire judgment yesterday night, sitting and reading each and every single word of it. And I could presume that yes, there is a big hope, there's a big chance for the entire LGBT community of India to really fight now against Section 377, because the amendment which is passed yesterday has given some hope. And answering your question right now is yes, of course it is going to play a significant role as far as the health perspective of entire sexual minority community. I'm just not going to talk about MSM or only specific to transgender, but entire health perspective of sexual minorities.
Right.
Of course, it's going to really, give them a chance to, and give them a chance to get a better health access. And of course, it's not going to be that easy for us, but I think we can, go ahead with it.
Okay, just coming on a very personal story. Now we come to Ashwin. Now Ashwin, I think the battle legally from an advocacy point of view has begun in earnest. But from your own personal story, the perceptions and the biases that exist on the ground, because you're a professional, right? And you have every right to have access to clubs and institutions you choose to belong to.
Correct.
I believe there was an instance where you were excluded.
Yes, I was, excluded from the membership of the Delhi Gymkhana Club. In fact, an article came out entitled "No Entry for Transgenders." It was actually, written by the Hindustan Times. And in this particular article, everything has been, explained as to the stand of the Delhi Gymkhana Club against not only transgenders but the entire LGBT community. And here is where I must add that, I took the liberty, much against the advice of, my dear parents, and they are the most wonderful people on the planet.
Very supportive.
And they're very supportive.
That's
they are
very
such
encouraging.
sweethearts. In spite of their gentle suggestions, which I did take very graciously, I decided to resign from the membership of the Delhi Gymkhana Club because I did not want to be associated with any association that is anti-LGBT.
I think that's a very principled stand. But Gaurav, coming to you, you represent the academic community. JNU, that's from the outside world seen as liberal and sort of progressive, but you yourself have had a struggle trying to explain why you have a distinct identity and therefore should be recognized as separate and as empowered.
Yes, JNU, as you said, like from outside, JNU seems to be very progressive and everything, but it's also a struggle that we are fighting inside, because we have been telling the administration for a long time that in the admission form there are minor changes you can make, like father slash husband slash mother's name. The mother's name is not there, so administration is not at all bothered that who is your mother, but bothered that who is your father and husband. We are also pushing the administration to include male, female and other. But this year administration denied all these things and they said we cannot do it because of technical problems. But next year, I think particularly with this judgment, I think the student body and the student union can actually push the administration to go for these changes. The minor changes, but it actually significant changes. So,
all right. So do continue joining in on the conversation on Twitter. Use a hashtag #IndiaPostLive. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Simran, from an on-ground perspective, where you do community interventions. How much do you think will change with the Supreme Court judgment in place?
I think it is going to change a lot, but definitely the struggle, the energy which has to be invested behind the actual law which is passed yesterday to actual work on the grassroots level is going to be a very, very tough job. It is something that is not very easy for us, but yes, we are definitely determined by the judgment which was passed yesterday. So I guess now we have a backbone to at least stand up.
All right, Simran, what about the contrarian view? Because, when I was coming into the show, a lot of people asked me, they said, the Supreme Court has set aside reservation for transgendered people, but in a country where reservation for those who don't have access to reservation has become such a bad word, is it a good thing, or are you anticipating adverse comments like that?
See, I am receiving such kind of adverse comments within the community and also outside the community, saying that why do you require this, backward class status?
Right.
And I say that the Supreme Court has just said that since all these years the transgenders were never ever been given their equal rights, hence they could be considered as a backward class and there could be some reservations for them to really come up. They have not specifically said that all the transgenders belong to the backward class or OBCs. They have not said that clearly. It is just said that we would consider the entire transgender community as a backward class, to give them and motivate them, to come forward and to raise up in their life. I think this is what the judgment has said. So I do not deny with the judgment of the Supreme Court from yesterday, but I think we need to, curl it down into our community perspective and just explain them that this is the actual meaning of that statement and do not take it the other way around.
And the other thing, Simran, is the World Bank did an interesting study that exclusion of minorities would mean that actually India is losing somewhat close to $30 billion. So would you say that counting you in would actually change that? Because you are all also professionally doing different things, right? And
Yes.
contributing.
Yes, I am. I think my recent meeting at the World Bank, where we had gone, was basically for the safeguard and inclusion of SOGI, that is sexual orientation and gender identity expression. What we wanted in the World Bank policy to be incorporated. And when we met the president of the World Bank, Mr. Jim Kim, Dr. Jim Kim, and when we met him, we were able to, motivate him with the testimonials of India as far as the health perspective is concerned. And we did really play a very good role. And he has not officially promised us, but he has said that he will look into the matter and he will try his level best to introduce the SOGI as well as the safeguard in the World Bank policy. We also had a chance to meet the executive director of India, who heads the World Bank, and the vice president of World Bank, who is fortunately for us from India, Mr. Sanjay Pradhan. We were fortunate enough to meet all these people and to explain why safeguards are really important, and and World Bank being a very important donor to this country needs to understand the importance of safeguards and needs to introduce SOGI policy. Needs to introduce
Right.
SOGI strategies in their policy.
All right, Simran. From a policy perspective, and coming to you, Ashwin, we're talking at the level of high policy, of how we must include sexual and other gender minorities in a certain category. But from a professional point of view, you're a professional linguist. What have the reactions been in your immediate circle when you go out there and transact business with your ecosystem? What have been the kind of reactions you get when you talk about who you are and what you are?
Well, it's been very difficult for me to work, in the corporate world here in New Delhi, which is the capital of India. I have had to change, jobs several times because of, the kind of treatment that I would get from my coworkers and from the management itself. So it has been, very difficult. I am a linguist. I speak, 15, 16 foreign languages at mother tongue level. Well, that's all, I have done in my life. I love languages. But they don't want to see that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to see how much you can contribute to your country. Mm-hmm. How much, good personality and talent you can bring, for the benefit of the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Simran, last words, because I know you have to carry on and go somewhere. But if you heard Ashwin, I think there's a twin challenge. There's a challenge both on a cultural level and also on a psychological level to really bring all this on board and bring it together, because it's good to talk at your intellectual level and the advocacy that you do when you talk to the World Bank. That is a real challenge, isn't it?
Of course, I told you, from my starting of my statement, I told you it's a very big challenge now for us. We only have now a support system that we can fight our case and fight each and every individual, transgender individuals can fight their case with dignity, because now the law has approved, their existence. This is a major stone for us. But yes, definitely, it is going to be the most toughest task what we have to do now. Convincing and changing a mindset of each and every single individual, it is not an easy job. It's going to require a hell lot of time, a hell lot of energy, and a hell lot of XYZ, etc., etc.
All right, Simran, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best in the battle to convince and change perceptions and change how things work in India.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And also coming back to the issue of perception, Gaurav, I think, you work at the level of academia. It's about education and reinforcement of the orthodoxy, right? How tough is it to get down to that level and talk to kids about breaking those myths and what we get told in a constant diet at home, in school, and elsewhere as well?
Yeah, so like I also take a course for the undergraduate students in JNU, and the name of the course is Literature and Idea, and which the course has now evolved into a course which only talks about gender and sexuality primarily. So there are a lot of, like these undergraduate students who come from different backgrounds and different economical backgrounds. So for them it was very difficult to first talk about gender and then to talk about sexuality. But the best thing is that now the girls are quite charged up in the class, and they always try to talk to their own, male friends, and try to tell them that, look, this is the problem with gender, this is the problem with sexuality. Another thing is that in JNU also there are a lot of support groups like Dhanak, Feminist Faculty Collective, and other collaboratives. So we are trying to make a network, so through which we can actually talk to the students, particularly undergraduate students, because JNU has School of Language which only has undergraduate students in foreign languages. And also to talk to other postgraduate and research scholars to talk about gender and sexuality, because in JNU we can talk about gender but nobody talks on sexuality. So that silence has to be broken, and I think that how we should, and we also propose that we should have a foundational course. Like if you pass that foundational course on gender and sexuality, then only you will have the degree. So those kind of dialogues are still going on between the administration and these bodies, but I don't know like when the administration will
it's attitudes at the top.
Yeah.
So Ashwin, so while the Supreme Court has mandated safe social spaces for transgendered communities, right? For you personally, what kind of access have you had to support groups, to other people like yourself out there, and those safe social spaces?
Well, the biggest support system in my life is my family.
Sure. You said that earlier.
Yes, and I can talk about my sexuality, I can talk about my dates, I can talk about, anything and everything under the sun and beyond it to my parents, and they listen to me very open-mindedly. Now, after the repenalization of homosexuality, unfortunately, in our country, I have not had a lot of access to safe spaces for gay people and for transgender people, because people are now, a little bit more scared than they were before. But you see, I have become more open as a person, even after the 377 verdict. I don't know how this is happening. Maybe it is because, for me, as a gay person, my feelings are real. So, when I talk about my sexuality, I talk about it without any hesitations. So I have started talking to people around me, even people I do not know. And when I talk about homosexuality, people listen and they do understand.
All right. So Gaurav, while Ashwin represents a certain, group of people who have somehow surpassed that perceptual changing at home, because that's the most important. I'm sure you've met a lot of young people who are still struggling, especially from economically other backgrounds, who are finding it very difficult to find that support. What do they do in this instance, given that Ashwin has set the context of the Supreme Court overturning, the High Court judgment on 377?
I think, it's true. Like in the LGBT movement also, like we have a certain section of activists coming from very privileged backgrounds, and we have a certain section of activists who don't know what to do. Even to struggle to have a support group is also, a big thing for them. I think if Supreme Court comes, like the way Supreme Court has come with this judgment, if Supreme Court also comes up with another progressive, another, historic judgment on Section 377 and says that, that, okay, fine, we are not legalizing gay marriages, but we are saying that, you are also sexual minority, your freedom to choose your partner or your, sexual choice is your choice. So we respect that. I think then more people will have the courage, as Ashwin says, that people are listening now after this, the whole debate and discussion around section 377, and also more support groups, if they come up, if they, there are more support
and
groups.
It's actually more than just about the LGBT issues now. It's about also jumping onto a larger canvas of violence against women, violence against personal freedoms, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
exactly. And because when Supreme Court recriminalized 377, my whole question was that what would be the new modes of harassment now from the police. So police knew that, okay, fine, we have to harass gay people, or somehow the gay people can be harassed. But now with this particular recriminalization of section 377, what would be the other modes of harassment, other modes of those tyrannical control over love and on individual freedom? I think those things, I think and it is also for the LGBT community to save their own LGBT activists and members. The first, I think the job is for us is to save our own friends and then to fight, because now the harassment will take a new turn. So those are the things I think we need to talk, we need to think, and then we have to also have more support groups, more collaboratives to come, and collectives to come and help us. So the more support groups are there, the more people will feel more comfortable and safe, and then they will start talking. As you said, we have to take the issue from the home to the world. So the home has to be sensitized first, and then you can actually go out in the world, into the world with a support system. I think that way.
And Ashwin, I think moving beyond just your home and the world, I think, what are your, so my next question is, what is your reaction to the screaming headlines, the way they frame the news about Supreme Court judgments, even today's headlines? When you read them, what was the gut reaction?
My gut reaction was...
The wording, I'm talking about, and you're an expert, you're a linguist, and you understand language.
Well, they spoke of, 377 yesterday. They spoke of 377 as being a remnant from the British era. Now, that in itself for me is a huge step, because it goes to show that 377 actually, it gives people the message that 377 does not...
outdated.
Sorry?
Is outdated.
It doesn't come from
but
our...
I was actually
it doesn't come from our
at a very
culture.
gut level at the kind of headlines that are framed by the media, because I'm just getting to the point of perception, while Gaurav talked about police and the institutions that victimize the LGBT community. Also, I think the larger public perception still pigeonholes it in a certain typecast, doesn't it?
Well, yes, it does. And I totally agree there is a lot of work to be done. But when an institution such as the Supreme Court of your motherland puts a scotch tape over your lips and says, please do not talk about your sexuality, then how on earth are you going to disseminate information about LGBT? People want to know, be educated. How can you put a stop to education if you want your nation to be educated? You need to remove the scotch tape from your mouth so that you can speak and tell people about your feelings. Tell everybody about your feelings. Connect with the whole world, and that is the only way. You should not stop people from exercising their fundamental rights, which does definitely include sexual orientation.
Absolutely, and going back, Gaurav, to the question of recognition, the uphill task, there is also the question of women. Right? When you deal with women who are struggling with the same issues, they are doubly disadvantaged. What have their reactions been to the movement now, given that all this has taken place at the level of the high courts?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with two of my lesbian friends and activists, and they said obviously they feel that it's a huge step, and they also think that Supreme Court actually talking about the articles which are violated. So, and as you said, you are asking Ashwin that what about the taglines and the headlines we see. So when the nation needs to know that it's the fight is still going on, and the fight is not only about LGBT people, it's also about common public. It's also about it's about sexuality. So when we see in the newspaper,
it's about what I do in my private space.
Yeah, so it's in the newspaper we see that that another hope for gay people or something like that. So it's all not only for gay people, it's also for Indian public. That also Indian public needs to know that that it's the section 377 violates our rights also, Right. So, and I think these women activists or the women friends that we have in the movement, they feel that somehow like they their voice will be strengthened more, because it's not only they are doubly doubly suppressed. They are women, and then they are lesbians, and all they have the different kind of choices. So those things need to be first recognized, and also need to be worked on, and they need a little more respect. I think that is a great challenge for us, and if the curative petition is soon going to, I hope Supreme Court is going to come soon on that, whether it should be heard in the chambers or in the public, or it should not be at all in the open court, or not at all. So I think this particular judgment that which came on, on Tuesday, I think this will, pave the way also for Supreme Court, another bench, to come with another judgment, and also on women issues, because what you rightly said, that violence on women, not only on straight women but also on lesbian women, also on women with other choices, they are all come under the same kind of purview of violence. So I think those things will be now talked and discussed more. The more, and I personally believe, the more we discuss, more we debate, more we go into the confusion, there is hope.
All right. So, Ashwin, I think it's only right and correct that we leave you with the last word. I think going forward, are you hopeful? What do you see coming from all of this?
I am very hopeful. I think we are truly a great nation, and we will definitely understand, LGBT. My people, my country will definitely understand my feelings, and they will know that there is nothing wrong with being gay, there's nothing wrong with being lesbian, there's nothing wrong with being bisexual, there is nothing wrong with being transgender. I'm sure India will be absolutely fine with it.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Of course, you can continue joining in the conversation by sharing your comments, also giving in suggestions on our website, indiapostlive.com. Continue to tweet with us, #IndiaPostLive. Thank you for watching.